Hi, let's talk about quick fixes for titles. I want to talk about improving your undergraduate research papers. And let's begin at the beginning. The title of your research paper should summarize the main points of the paper. So if you're talking about a text, reference the text. So give us the name, give us the author. Be specific. Imagine reading your title in a database. Know and use your key words. What are the key words? What are the important words in your title? What are you doing? What are you arguing? Who are you arguing about? Now, in order to understand why something is good, often we need to understand why something is bad. So, here are some examples of bad academic paper titles. Beauty is a bad title for an academic paper. It's one word, and we don't know what kind or type of beauty is being referred to here. Now, beauty is a great word, a great title for a fictional, a book. You could use beauty as the title of a TV program. That's wonderful. But an academic paper is intended to be more specific and more analytical. It's supposed to tell readers, you're supposed to know from the title exactly what's being argued about. That also makes truth a bad title. Whose truth? When? Where? How? Basically, rule number one-word titles are fine when you write fiction, but they don't give enough information for an academic essay. Avoid single-word titles. Here's some more examples of bad academic paper titles. Now, all of these would be fine for a short story. One Man's Injustice, The Broken Hip, A Statistical Anomaly. They're very interesting titles, but they don't give us enough information. Whose injustice? Who's the man? What broken hip? Where? What's the statistical anomaly? When did that happen? Rule number 2, remember that successful academic papers appear in databases. I know I keep saying this, but I want you to think about it. When readers see titles in databases, often they see only the paper's title. So give readers enough information so that they can decide whether they want to look at your paper or not. You can make a bad title better by just telling your reader more. Find your keywords and tell your reader more. The original, beauty, can be improved. Beauty standards in Bollywood. Now I know what we're talking about. India's Hollywood, Bollywood, is and in beauty is a wonderful paper idea. I'd love to see someone write about it. Here's another bad to better. Truth. Truth is defined by Oprah Winfrey. That's a really interesting title. Now I know what we're arguing. One Man's Injustice is improved. One Man's Injustice, The Innocence Project's Goals. Wonderful. Now I know what we're going to argue. The Innocence Project is an organization that attempts to look at scientific evidence and have tests run to see if people who are behind bars were wrongly convicted. Great. I know what you're going to be researching. Rule number 3, that part after the colon, which is what my students tend to call it, that part is the subtitle. It clarifies the subject of the essay and becomes even more specific. So for more bad to better, all using subtitles, Broken Hip. The broken hip that could have broken an author. Stephen King's most frightening story. Now I realize that this is a lot of words, and many instructors would not like to see this as a title. I understand that. That's fine. Make sure you know what your instructor wants to see. I don't have a problem with this title because it does give me a lot of information. Now, I could see the subtitle here becoming the title itself of the paper. Wonderful. That would work too. So always, and when you've written a really long title, ask yourself if that more specific, concise subtitle would substitute better for your current title. A statistical anomaly is another bad choice that I showed you earlier. Let's talk about how it can be improved. A statistical anomaly that was never an anomaly. Nate Silver's call on the presidential election. This is not a bad title. Now, think about it though. If this goes into a database and it's sitting there for 20, 30, 40 years, is anyone going to know which election we're talking about? A lot of people won't. They will not immediately recognize Nate Silver. They won't remember which election. So be specific. Even if you think everyone will recognize the situation, you need to include the critical keywords so that if that paper sits in a database for 40 or 50 years, and someone glances at it, it should tell them exactly what you're talking about. Here are the bad to better titles that I gave you. So these are all better. Now, are they perfect? No. In fact, they are definitely flawed if they don't match what you argued. So, rule number 4 is about making your title look right. Make sure you capitalize appropriately. In MLA, this means that you capitalize the first word, the last word, and all significant words, including those that follow hyphens in compound terms. You do not capitalize articles like a, an, and the, or prepositions like in, of, to, or coordinating conjunctions like and, but, for, nor, or, so, or yet, unless you only capitalize one of these unless it is the first word of the title. Now here's rule number 5, and this rules, it is the most critical rule. Your title fails if it does not describe the contents of your paper, the gist of your argument. So if your title is about Nate Silver and his call in the presidential election, and you've written a paper about something else, like let's say after some research you decide to write about Bollywood standards, and you just left the old title up there, well, it's a failing title. It's 0 out of 5 points because it doesn't tell your reader anything. It misleads your reader. It doesn't do its job. Let's look at an example that a student might have. This is a first paragraph with different sentences highlighted in different colors. Students don't turn them in highlighted, but I wanted to turn them in just to differentiate. This is how a paper about Robert Frost's poem might begin, and many of my students put title ? At the top and forget to fill that in. Now, out of 5 points, that is a 1. 0 is no title at all. 1 is I put title or title ? At the top. There's something there, but it doesn't do the job. Okay, where do you look to figure out what to put in that title spot? Always look at your thesis statement. In this case, the thesis statement is in yellow. Frost uses both the literal and figurative implications of these words to suggest that the world's destruction is both inevitable and tied to human nature. So we're talking about a poem here. Now you could be talking about anything. You could be talking about biology and recent test results. Everyone who writes a paper has something that they're arguing, and there are keywords in that argument. So the keywords here have to do with what's in white, Robert Frost's poem Fire and Ice, that's our text, and they have to do with the argument itself, that the world's destruction is inevitable and tied to human nature. What is a decent title or a better title? Well, a better title would be Robert Frost's Fire and Ice. This is not perfect. As I said before, title would be 1 out of 5 points. Robert Frost's Fire and Ice would be 2 or 3 out of 5 points, depending on what other people in the class used as their titles. It doesn't tell me the argument, but at least it tells me the text we're looking at. Here is a better title. This is probably a 4 out of 5. Human Nature and Frost's Fire and Ice, and it might be a 5 out of 5. Here's another title. This is what I would prefer. Nature versus Human Nature and Frost's Fire and Ice. So here we have the 2 ways that the world could end, and we're looking at them. Now, are there other titles you could use? Yes. But this gives you a sense of how students can and should title. Now, the last thing that you touch before you turn in any paper is your title and your thesis statement. And you align those with exactly what you prove. So look at all your topic sentences, look at all your paragraphs themselves, ask yourself, what job does this do? What is this proving? Put a concise version of that in your thesis statement, and then an even more concise, specific, keyword-guided version of that in your title. And then, in my opinion, you will be the title master. I hope you have a good day. Bye. You've just been watching Victoria McCready.